what are the key questions that people are asking us, the things that we get on a daily basis. No one better to answer this one than you. Obviously, there have been a lot of changes in the building industry in the last couple of years or so. The question I want to ask you is really around buying new versus building new. And our team often get asked, why not just, there are benefits to having new. Why wouldn't you just buy something new completed rather than go through the building process? So can you share, I guess, the pros and cons of doing that and why it makes sense to build as opposed to buy new if that's the kind of investment you're looking at?
Yeah, certainly, Michael. Now, I started my journey almost 15 years ago. Made some really costly mistakes early on in my journey, tried a few different strategies, including renovation and development. So I've got a fairly balanced view when it comes to different strategies and the pros and cons associated with them. In relation to building new, for me, it simply comes down to maximizing your cash flow, minimizing the cash flow implications, and putting yourself in the best position to duplicate and repeat that process safely and securely. So let's break that down. Michael, as we know, there's a very small percentage of Australians that actually end up building a high-performing portfolio. They get stuck on either property 1 or 2 because they don't understand the cash flow implications of holding the property and the risk associated with buying something established or even new, but not newly built.
And just to get a little bit specific there, Kosta, your points are bang on. So if they're buying something established, when you talk about cash flow implications, they're getting less rent for an old property than a new one. They're paying a bucket load in purchase costs and specifically stamp duty, which is not tax deductible.
Yep.
And as a result, they're paying 4 to 5 times the amount out of their pocket to hold an established property that it would cost to hold an equivalent new property. So that's why they're hamstrung and not able to get to the next one and the next one because it's so expensive to hold the one that they've got. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The rental returns and the rental yields are lower. The tax and depreciation benefits are minimised. There's significant maintenance risk.
If you're happy to share, you mentioned that you've obviously got for a young guy, you've had an amazing investment journey and portfolio that you've created. I think you've done amazingly well in the last 10 years relative to what you did in the first 5, and part of that's due to the strategy. What were some of the challenges with those early established properties that you invested in, and how did that kind of hold you back on building a portfolio until later on?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. So the first few that I acquired early on in my journey, between 10 and 15 years ago, were within a 5K radius of where I grew up. There was no research or analytics involved in the process. It was simply my ability to drive past and see the properties and make sure the tenants were mowing the lawns. That was number one on my list. So we can have a bit of a laugh about it now, but one of the key things I like to share with my clients early on in their journey is that we really need to detach the emotion and make informed decisions based on research, evidence, and of course numbers. The older properties I acquired, they just simply cost me too much to hold.
Right.
It really impacted my ability to grow the portfolio, and went through the process with yourself 11 years ago as a client. And here we are. 10 years later as one of the senior strategists here at OpenCorp.
But pivoting just back to the new versus established comparison, if you want to call it that. There are some cons to building new, or some benefits to buying established relative to new. Can you just run through the handful of things that fall into that category?
One of the strategic benefits of aligning yourself with OpenCorp is that we can minimize a lot of the risks associated with building new. Some of the key ones include unforeseen costs and cost overruns. Potentially time delays, having to wait maybe 40, 50 weeks before you start actually generating some rental income. There are a few of the key ones there, yeah.
Isn't it? That's a really key one that's not well understood, and it's safe to say kind of less than 1% of Australians understand it, and that's that while the benefit of buying established in a lot of people's eyes is that they get rental income day one, after it's leased, they don't realise that they're paying the best part of a year's worth of rent in stamp duty, which is not tax deductible, whereas the rental income is subject to tax.
Yeah.
Right. So really, you come out very, 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 very close, and then you're a long way in front, obviously, over years 1 to 5 through to 10 with new. The other part is, I think from the clients that I've spoken to, or the investors that I've spoken to over my journey, there seems to be a belief out there that you start to get a return on the investment once it's rented.
Yeah.
You get the return on investment once you secure the property. And I know we've both done it where we've signed a contract, secured, today's price, not settled for months into the future, and seen 6-figure uplift before we've even had to spend the money to settle. Right. So I think there's a bit of a mindset thing there for people to understand that it's not rental income that gives you the financial return. It's the upside and how you can effectively get that for free if you're able to delay the settlement if that falls part of your strategy and makes sense.
Yeah, it's absolutely about that compound growth. It's amazing how many clients early on in their journey feel like without that rental income, they're not realizing any gains. But as you've highlighted, it's that uplift that they're achieving from land settlement all the way through to tenancy.